That was very helpful. And in fact, I feel like I'm definitely in a better place now after having this conversation with you, because you're right.
That's what I think makes your work different and better than others.
I definitely don't think I'd be engaged to him or in the relationship I'm in if I hadn't listened to you.
Sick of sacrificing or settling in your romantic life? Welcome to Make Him Wonder with Coach Paula Grooms, where women struggling in real relationships ask the expert. Unscripted, unfiltered, understandable coaching conversations to help passionate women succeed in love.
Hi there, and welcome to Make Him Wonder. I'm your host, Coach Paula, a dating and relationship coach, licensed social worker, and author of the book, Why Won't He Commit? How a Man Decides to Make You the One. My guest today is the lovely and talented Sonali Chandra. Sonali is a stand-up comedienne and dancer. And over the past few years, she has developed a social media presence on her public persona of being the 36-year-old virgin. She was a leading lady on 2 reality TV dating shows and was featured for segments on Dr. Phil and Tamron Hall, where they discussed how Sonali could find Mr. Right without losing her virginity in the process. Sonali's past is one of being caught between 2 cultures, that of her East Indian heritage, where marriages are arranged, and the American culture of New Jersey, where she grew up. Not being allowed to date, her first kiss was at the age of 26. And the only man who has gone a bit farther than that is also the real first man to win her heart, Mr. Lapp. Sonali wants to know what made Mr. Lapp dump her after 6 months, using their 29-year age difference as the reason. Sonali states that she and Mr. Lapp did not commit intercourse, but she is absolutely devastated and has cried incessant tears hysterically due to her severe heartbreak. She comes on Make Him Wonder today, seeking my help in making sense of Mr. Lapp's behavior, getting past the intense emotional pain she is in, and if it is possible for her to get Mr. Lapp back. Welcome, Sonali.
Hi, Paula. Thank you.
My goodness, that is some introduction. And I want to unpack this for you. And I think from looking at all the things I did on your social media and many of the shows, I understand you were on the 2 reality TV dating shows, 5 Guys a Week, and what was the other?
Dating Different.
What was Dating Different?
So both shows were reality TV dating shows. Both were blind dates. However, with 5 Guys a Week, I lived with and dated 5 guys simultaneously. And as the week progressed, I kicked one guy out at a time. And at the end of the week, I picked a winner. With Dating Different, it was just one blind date. Spent a couple hours with the guy. He turned out to be an actor. And when I found that out, I'm like, well, how do I know you're not acting with me right now? So that was Dating Different. I went on both. I was fortunate to be booked for both shows in a genuine quest for love, but I turned out to be very unlucky both times. And so Mr. Lapp, I met him serendipitously, and I wasn't looking for him. We met organically, and he came to me.
I see.
And now here I am.
Okay. And I understand that you're heartbroken about him, and I want to be able to help you with that to whatever degree possible. But I do want to find out some background on this, because I think it's going to be the most significant thing for you. First, I want to ask, what was your biggest reason for coming on today? And what do you most want to get out of this conversation with me? What would you like to walk away from and say, this is a real win?
The reason I wanted to speak with you in this platform is because Mr. Lapp was my first real relationship. He's the 6th man to have ever kissed me, but the first real and the longest relationship. As you said, he has gone a bit farther past the first kiss. He's the first man with whom I experienced second and third base with both ways. We went on for 6-7 months. We met organically. I knew him for about 2 months before we went out on our first date, which I didn't think of as a date at the time. We were part of the same fitness community. We often crossed paths, and we had a lot of mutual connections, and then also just interests, fitness, business. We're both Aquarians. When he suggested dinner, I was like, sure, why not? What's the harm? but dinner turned out to be for 3 hours, and I genuinely enjoyed his company. And we just had a lot to talk about, lots of laughs. When things started developing from there, and then when he ended it, he pursued me, and then he ended it. I, of course, would be, heartbroken because he pursued me. He's the one who pursued me. Then he's the one who ended it. He strung me along for 6.5, 7 months, all the time, knowing how old I was. But then he just, out of nowhere, ended it with me, citing our 29-year age difference as the deal breaker. And let me tell you something, Paula. Yes, he's 65, I'm 36, but he's a very youthful, spirited 65-year-old. And otherwise, how else could we have connected on so many levels? That's really, I'm shattered. I'm still shattered, devastated, just crushed. And so that's why I'm here seeking your help.
Okay.
And really the biggest takeaway for me would be just trying to understand why he all of a sudden ended it with me after 6.5, 7 months, using age as the deal breaker. Just, none of it makes any sense to me.
Okay. And I trust that you know that this is going to be a different conversation than, say, an interview. I know you've done a lot of media, and that's about ratings and the sensationalism of something very different and titillating, like the 36-year-old version, that kind of thing. But this is going to be about you, about what you want, and about really unpacking things as to the why, and even maybe what you might be able to do about it. Because I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you could have this back, you would like it back.
Yes, that's a very accurate statement. Whatever I've done with Mr. Lapp, I can't imagine, nor do I want to do with any other man. I waited 36 years to meet him, and I absolutely do want him back, despite how much he has already hurt me, because I love him. And yes, I do agree with your point, to your earlier point about, this is going to be a very different type of conversation as opposed to what I've done before. And I'm completely aware of that. I'm at a point in life where I'm okay being vulnerable and having my personal life out on a public platform so that others can benefit from it, learn from it, be inspired by it. Because quite frankly, I look up to Priyanka Chopra. She's a Bollywood actress. And what she has with her husband, Nick Jonas, that's what I want in my personal life. And I don't think that's a lot to ask. I think women should know what they want. Otherwise, they're being taken for granted. So I'm here. My life is an open book. I want to get your advice, your coaching, and you can ask me whatever you need to try to help me. And I'm completely on board.
Well, I really appreciate that vulnerability. And I have so many questions for you. I want this to be different for you because I want it to be of value to you. Anyone who comes on the podcast, I want to give them my real take on things, and it's not for entertainment purposes. Some people would call it infotainment, but it really is more towards the info than the tainment. There are many questions I have for you before we get to Mr. Lapp, because I think it's going to indicate to me a bit of what I need to know about that relationship. And then I'm going to ask you more about that relationship. From all of the media I have seen about you, is that you grew up from an East Indian background in an American state, New Jersey. And are you first generation?
So let me backtrack. I was born and raised in New Jersey to immigrant parents from India. So my parents were born in India. I was born in America. And even though I was raised in America, my parents raised me as if I was in India. And so my parents themselves, they had an arranged marriage. They were virtually strangers when they got married in 1983. And then they came to America. And my father is 9 years older than my mother. And he's the boss in my family. He's the patriarch. In fact, I grew up fearing my father. And actually, I'm still afraid of my father. But the way he raised me, it was very strict conservative household. I was forbidden from dating, socializing, having sleepovers, going to prom, or even dorming in college. But on the flip side, I grew up learning Indian classical dancing and watched romantic Bollywood movies, which instilled in me what love is supposed to be like. And that was my life until I was 22. Graduated with a finance degree. And then on the way home from the graduation ceremony, my father starts pressuring me to agree to an arranged marriage. Paula, my jaw dropped. I'm like, you've never let me have a boyfriend. Now you want me to get married to a stranger? Are you crazy?
Mhm.
And so long story short, I've been fighting my parents on that for over 14 years. Arranged marriage to me is your parents choosing who you're going to be sleeping with. My parents never talked to me about sex.
Mhm.
I learned about it from health class.
Mhm.
And like, the whole concept just grosses me out. And so, yeah, my life is definitely an amalgamation of American and Indian cultures. And it's always been a constant struggle going back and forth between the two.
Okay. So one of the things you said here that I want to extrapolate from that that you just gave us is I grew up watching Indian Bollywood movies about, and they taught me what romance is. That's concerning to me. I don't know much about Bollywood movies. I mean, I've seen the lavish and the dancing and the music, and it's all beautiful. I don't really know about the romance in them, but tell me about that because that's going to tell me a lot about how I might be most helpful to you.
So the movies I grew up watching in the 90s and the early 2000s, the most the leading lady and hero did was hold hands on camera. That's the most that they would do. Back then, they never even showed the lead's kiss. And if they did, it was behind like a tree or something. So that was definitely a big takeaway. And another huge takeaway is that in Bollywood movies in the 90s and the early 2000s, sex happens after marriage.
Right. And I'm sure they didn't show any of that.
Exactly. Now
And
these Bollywood movies show whatever. I haven't seen one in years. And even if I did, I don't think I could watch it with my parents. Absolutely not. I would cringe.
Right.
But that's what I grew up watching and learning from. And it pretty much Bollywood movies brainwashed me into what I thought love was supposed to be like.
Yes. Okay. So you know that intellectually.
Until it was my senior year of college. So as I mentioned before, I commuted from home. One, for financial reasons, and then two, my dad's like, what do college kids do on campuses? They do hanky panky.
Cute.
That's my stand-up comedy right there.
Yes.
And so I commuted from home because my dad was protecting me from all that nonsense, as he called it. But my senior year of college, Paula, I had a study session within the business school, and we were at this girl's dorm. We were all in the business school studying for cramming for an exam, and she said that she mentioned that her boyfriend sleeps over. And that's when my jaw dropped and I put two and two together. I was 21 or 22 then. And I'm like, wait, her boyfriend sleeps over there. She's not married. Like, what do they do when they sleep over? Like, that's when it hit me that people have sex
So
before
it
marriage.
was not until 22 that it hit you.
Yeah,
That you
I
knew
had
that.
no clue. I was so protected, so naive. I'm still naive, I think.
Okay.
I used to believe that sex was impossible before marriage.
Okay. Yes. Uh-huh.
But
Okay.
but yeah, it was really an eye-opening revelation, if you will, my senior year of college.
There were these certain things, and you had a few kisses or what have you in those years. So between graduation of college at what?
22.
What did you do in terms of like life? Were you living at home again, or did you move out? And what was your dating like until just recently with Mr. Lapp?
So I graduated with a finance degree from Rutgers University in 2009 at the age of 22. I still lived at home for a couple of years. So I was commuting to and from New Jersey to Manhattan. I started my career off on Wall Street. My life was just work, work, work. Wall Street's a very demanding career choice. And my life was just commuting from New Jersey, work and happy hour.
Okay, so wait a minute. Wait, this is an interesting thing here. So
Okay.
happy hour after work. Were
Correct.
you drinking?
Yes.
So I'm sure there was lots of, I mean, those traders after work, I mean, boy, did they let loose.
Yes, they did.
Wow. And you're a woman there. Were you a trader?
I was on the financial services, yes, on the stock brokerage, stock treasury services side, yes, and I
Wow.
was one of the very few women in
Yeah.
at happy hour, on the trading floor, in the office, in the cubicle space. Yes, you could say that.
Oh my gosh. So you must have had men coming on to you all the time.
I sure did. Indian, non-Indian, single, married, men old enough to
Everything.
be my father, hitting on me aggressively.
Everything.
It was gross.
Okay, so tell me what was gross about it. I'm not going to assume anything here. Okay. Tell me what you felt was gross about it.
That all of these men, they just looked at me as a sex object. That the only thing I was good for was for sexual pleasure. They didn't care to get to know me on a personal level. Just, what's my favorite color? What do I like to do outside of work? Do I like, I was still dancing on the side, while working on Wall Street during the day, what are my hobbies? Do I speak any other languages? They didn't care about any of that. They just wanted to get straight into my pants. And these are men who are not just Indian, non-Indian, married, single,
Okay.
just the whole gamut. And it grossed me out, actually. Like, here I was going to happy hour to just relax and get away from the office, just chill. But then it was a different type of war zone in happy hour, if you will.
Yes, I can imagine it was confusing to you, confusing to them. The American side of you, however, if you think about that and not the Indian side of you, were you confused about it, or had you not seen any American TV, American films?
I grew up watching Full House. That's how I learned English. Full House is more of a family-friendly show, though. In high school, I started watching Seinfeld, Friends, and Sex and the City. That's what inspired me to move to New York or start working in New York after college, because all three of those shows are set in New York City, and there I was in New Jersey, in the Garden State. And so I actually wanted to go to NYU, but my dad said it was too expensive, and he was right. So I had my heart set on the Big Apple right after college graduation. So yeah, in the beginning, like I said, I commuted from home, but I went home to sleep. I spent every waking hour in Manhattan or on the bus to and from Manhattan. And so like those three shows really taught me what Manhattan social life was like. Absolutely. So that was my vicarious learning. It really was. Well, but then to experience that in person and to have all these men pursue me just for sexual pleasure, that was disgusting to me. That's when the Indian side of me kicked in. Like, that sex is something special and sacred. I call myself a semi-virgin now, thanks to Mr. Lapp, but back then I was a full virgin, and something like virginity, chastity, and the prudish mindset I had and still do have, it definitely conflicted in my mind, given like my upbringing and my Indian background compared to what I was facing in the workforce.
Okay. Here's the thing I'm hearing, that you're saying it in the past tense, that it definitely conflicted, but it's still conflicting. Not as much,
because if it was as much of a conflict as I had let it used to be, whatever happened with Mr. Lapp would never have happened.
Okay.
I think definitely I'm 36 now. I'm definitely more American than Indian, but the Indian part of me is very still prominent. But back then I was definitely more Indian than American, even though I was working on Wall Street.
You had mentioned on one of the shows, I can't remember which one it was, but that when you are dating, the moment the man wants to get physical, you tell him you're a virgin. Do you continue to do that?
Well, I haven't dated. I don't date as per the very definition of dating. I don't know how to date because I was forbidden from developing that skill growing up. So whatever dates I've been on, it's just been with men who I've met at, let's say, events or parties, or organically, serendipitously. I've only been kissed by 6 men. My first kiss was at age 26. And he was the first man. He was an Indian man, and this was in New York City. He was the first guy I told when he wanted more that I was a virgin. And it's the story of my life, Paula. It's the same thing that happens over and over again with all these men. Their jaws drop. They're shocked. They're surprised. They're like, "You're so beautiful. How could that be?" I'm like, "Well, men have tried." Even before the first kiss, men have tried. I just never let anything happen. I didn't feel safe. it just didn't feel right. But that's always what's happened with all these guys, that when they express their desire to kiss me and have more happen, that's when I reveal my V card and my prudish ways.
You can have what it is that you want if you make a decision about it. And what I'm hearing is that you are still going between the two worlds and not making a decision one way or the other, believe it or not, because you would think, well, wait a minute, I've made a decision to be a virgin until marriage. So that would make the decision pretty darn clear. But actually, it's not about that decision. It's about the decision of which cultural identity or creating your own combination of cultural identity that you will be absolutely comfortable with, and then display that comfortability to whoever you are with.
You are absolutely right, Paula. It's definitely a constant struggle and challenge. So I mentioned 6 men have only kissed me. The first 3 men were Indian, and the second set of 3 men, they were non-Indian. What I've realized is that Indian men, they understand and love that V-card aspect of mine and my prudish ways, but they are unsupportive and intimidated by my career ambitions and aspirations. So that's Indian men. With these non-Indian men, they fully support my professional goals and career ambitions, but they don't understand
Right.
my prudish ways and my
Right. So let's look at that.
Yeah. So it's
because
it's a
that's going to help
challenge.
you.
I'm screwed. I really am.
Well, I want you to start thinking that you're not, because
Okay.
if you continue to think that you are, you will continue to be screwed. You've heard the saying, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
I
So
have heard
it's
of
the
that,
same
yes.
thing. If you think you're screwed or you think you're not, you're right. So we want to choose that you're not screwed, because you are beautiful, you're lovely, you're vibrant, you have so much to offer, you have a wealth of experience. I believe it's a combination of just what I told you about making the decision to make the combination of cultural aspects that you want and you are comfortable with. But there's a couple of things that I'm going to tell you that are in your way.
I do want to just add, it's definitely the cultural aspect of why I was and still am looking to remain a virgin until marriage. But then also there's a huge emotional component. I can't imagine like having a one-night stand or a no strings attached relationship. Like even with what happened with Mr. Lapp, 6.5, 7 months, like I'm still crushed, you know, like, and I understood why he may never have wanted to have gotten married again, because he was previously married, and you know he's 65. Of course, he has a past. He obviously is not a virgin,
Right.
but we talked a lot. He and I talked a lot and got to know each other before I let anything happen. And so there's an emotional component to it. I just want to make that clear.
Well, that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about too. When we thwart a natural experience of something in a culture that you have been very exposed to, simply by virtue of being here in the States, spending a good amount of your very young life, 22 is very young, in a city like New York. At that time, yes, and Sex in the City is as creative, as funny, as artistic as it was very true to life for the American woman. The 4 characters are just the 4 sides of one woman. And I think that that's exceedingly true, that every single woman has the Samantha character in her, the Miranda character in her, the Carrie character in her, and the Charlotte character in her. And it is what the man brings out, and there's just so many colors to a woman, and this is true. Now you're talking about your emotional stuff in your dating. Well, here is a very significant part of it for you that will need to be addressed for you in order for you to get out of this being stuck where you are. And one of those things is we need to start where you are, because of our culture. You're here in the States, and your age, there's a part of you that's not starting where you are. What I mean by that is you're going to have to date as if you were someone much, much younger. And I'm going to tell you how I mean that to be. Go to the Make Him Wonder podcast playlist for more coaching conversations like this one, most anonymously, with women just like you who come to me to have a real, unfiltered coaching conversation where I give all of my coaching for her to succeed in her romantic life. Hit that red alert bell so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. So what's happening is if you are meeting someone, say, 40 years old, he's, I don't know what city you're in now, but you're on the West Coast, correct?
LA,
Okay, so you're in LA. So again, a city, very sexualized city, Hollywood there. It's a lot of people who have had a lot of experience, and they're not necessarily going to understand what's going on for you.
Exactly.
Now, when we're 16 and say a virgin, or 17, even 18, older, and we're virgins, when we date, we don't go around telling men we are. We just date them, and things progress. It's not something we focus on because we're at that time in our life where the young men that we're with generally understand, well, she could be, correct? If she's 16, she's probably, she could be. 17, she's probably or could be. 18, same thing, and on and on. But when you surpass a certain age and you're still doing that, there's going to be this schism and disconnect. But it's really dating in the same fashion for you. In other words, when you've been dating and you say, well, I've kissed them, do you continue to be affectionate, kiss, or do you immediately say, once a kiss happens, well, you know I'm a virgin?
I will start off by saying this. I fall in love with just one kiss. I have a heart and a soul, and I'm very sensitive. And so for me, a kiss is a big deal. And from there, I felt stuff happen to my body just from a kiss. Absolutely. That's only when the man said, when all these men have said, like, let's go to a hotel, let's do this, let's do that, let's go back to my car. That's when I reveal, like, listen, this is my deal. And
okay,
like I'm not that type of girl where I'm not a one night stand type of girl, nothing like that.
Okay.
Just so that's when it comes up. But like when we first meet, like I don't reveal that then.
But even then, it's a problem.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that you fall in love with one kiss because you are at the sexual developmental level of that 16 or 17-year-old. That's how we felt at 16 or 17 too. That's what happens. And you see, yes, you see how important it is that you've got for yourself to go step by step. And if you don't, and you thwart those steps, you will continue to stay in this circular trap that you're in. And what I mean by that is that you kiss a man and he's, 36, 40, whatever. And he says, do you want to go back to my hotel room? The answer is not, I've never done that before. I'm a virgin. I don't do that. Any explanation about it. It is a version of what I call my sexy mother approach.
I'm listening. This is very intriguing.
Okay. And sexy mother just basically knows that boys will be boys. So we need to be their headmistress, their healer, their helper, their hedonist. But we need to do it in a way that shows them exactly what my boundaries are and what they aren't. So instead of, well, listen, I'm a virgin. I've never done this. I've never even gotten to second base with anybody. I've never done this. I've never done that. I've only been kissed twice. My background is this and that. It's just this. Oh, I don't go to hotel rooms after just one kiss. But it was a nice kiss. I wouldn't mind going for dinner. What did I just do there? I just showed him a boundary. First of all, nobody should be going back to a hotel room with someone from a first kiss if they want anything more than that hookup, correct?
Right.
Because with any man, it's not going to get you anything more than that. And I'm not
Right.
making any judgment about that. In other words,
Uh-huh.
if somebody wants to do that, go ahead. I'm just going to tell you what I think the consequences will be for you.
Agreed. Yes.
Right?
Understood.
But you need to finesse it so that they get to know who you are, spend time with you, be around your essence, know all the other wonderful things that come with you, so that he says, oh, I respect that. You know, if you said that to any man and you said, oh, well, after one kiss, I'm not going to your hotel room, but I wouldn't mind, you know, going to dinner or whatever it is, right? Depending on the situation. But I
Right.
wouldn't mind holding your hand and taking a walk and getting to know you a little bit.
Right.
And you get to know me.
You know, Paula, I completely hear what you're saying, and I completely agree. In fact, that's how it happened with Mr. Lapp. I knew him for 2 months before our first date, which, like I said before, I did not consider a date. I just thought it was just two people having a meal because we were
Right.
part of the same fitness community. He, even though I had already been on national television before, he had no clue of anything about me. He didn't Google me
Oh,
or anything.
good.
And actually, I
That's
Googled
good.
him because I wanted to make sure whoever I was having dinner with wasn't a creeper. He works
Uh-huh.
in real estate. I used to work in real estate in Manhattan, so we had that intellectual connection. And you know something, Paula, like he didn't even try to kiss me. At our first date, you know, we after dinner we went for a walk in the
He was a
neighborhood. He
gentleman.
didn't try to
Yeah.
hold my hand.
Right.
I didn't try to. We were just getting to know each other. We really,
Right.
it was really nice. And then he took
Yes.
me back to my car. He walked me back to my car, and we gave each other a friendly hug because I knew him. I knew I was going to see him again at the gym and all that. And he did say we should do this again. I'm like, yes, absolutely. And I said, thank you so much for suggesting that we have dinner. Because I got to say, Paula, he's not. Let me backtrack here. I met him through work. To be completely frank, I work at a gym, and I'm not going to mention which gym, but he's a member at that gym, and I he's not the first man who has pursued me.
I'm sure.
You know,
Absolutely.
at the risk of sounding dating
Right.
and all these other men, they've always asked me for dinner, but with them, I said lunch because I'm not going to date male members, you know, because I didn't want to lose my job. You know, I'm a professional.
Mm-hmm.
But with Mr. Lapp, he had suggested dinner, and I said yes to him because I felt safe with him. Like I said, I knew him for 2 months before we went out for dinner,
Okay.
and he's not a creeper. I felt safe with him, and I felt like I could trust him, and
Okay.
so that's how it started.
Okay, great.
Just
And
getting to know each other.
this can happen again, Sonali. And it can happen with someone actually who's more appropriate for you. And here's what happens. When we're 16, 17, and we have that first maybe sexual encounter, right? Even if it is all the way.
Mhm.
Do you think we as women attach to that guy, even if he's not going to be our forever guy?
I would. I can't really talk about other women, but
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you that 90%, even 95%, even 98% of women will, if you know my book, you know I talk about we women bond through time together and sex.
right.
Men do not. So you are experiencing this with Mr. Lapp, even though, quite frankly, a 29-year age difference, and I'm sure he's not interested in having a baby.
Neither am I, actually.
Okay. All right. But regardless, it's not the best of possibilities for long term. It's just not because of your age. It's an enormous age difference. If it were 10 years, even 15, but you are at completely different life stages. You are growing, building your life. He is ebbing out of certain things and heading towards other things. I don't disrespect him for telling you about this age difference. And then you're going to think, well, he knew that all the way along.
Yes.
Of course he did. We have to know and take on the responsibility put on us because we're female that, of course, he's going to want to pursue you. Look at you. all of you? Of course he is. It is your duty to say, well, I really like you and I feel good with you, but it's really just not going to work for me. Because, yes, you can potentially get this back, but he's likely made a decision. He doesn't want to take on someone where you are in your life. And you are not a jaded, older minded 36-year-old just because of what we said. You deserve to go through all the things that we as women can go through sexually, and you will, but likely he won't be able to keep up with that. And I'm not saying anything about his functioning. That's not the point. Being somebody much closer to Mr. Lapp's age than yours, I can tell you this from experience. The younger man now is where you are sexually. Women keep evolving sexually in a very unique way. It's actually for women going into their 50s and 60s that you can't even imagine being 30s. And that's a good thing. It's a beautiful part of life. You wouldn't want to thwart that. Now, I know your heart is with him, but that's what I want to unpack for you. You had this experience with him like someone 16 had their first experience, and they're going to attach everything to that guy. It doesn't matter whether he's 16 or 65. That's what you've done. It doesn't make him appropriate for you. It doesn't. I'm not negating in any way your feelings for him. They are real. They are true. I have the love letter that you sent to us, that you wrote.
Right.
And in reading it, again, from my mature perspective on this, I mean, there's no question that you love him a lot, but the essence of it is what I'm telling you is so emotionally and sexually young that he's going to feel wrong to do this to you. Wrong. If he's a good man, and I bet he is, he's going to feel very wrong in continuing to pursue you. And that's why he told you that it's the age difference. Does that make sense?
I'm listening to what you're saying. You mentioned something about childbearing years. I was on a British talk show a couple of weeks ago, and I was caught off guard. The reporter asked me about children, and I answered very honestly. This is what I'm about to share with you. If I wanted to have kids, I would have found a way to have it by now, either conventionally or through surrogacy or adoption. I don't feel kids are in my future at all. I could care less. If I wanted to, I would have done it by now. And even Mr. Lapp, he's previously married. He has 2 grown kids of his own, both of whom are younger than me. They're in their 20s. So and he said he's not looking to have kids. I'm like, that's fine with me. I don't care either.
It's not the reason. It's not the reason.
For the Indian side of me, what I did with him, it's so special and sacred. Even if it wasn't full intercourse, other stuff happened, right? Like I can't imagine doing all that with another man.
Okay, but Sonali, you're going to have to rapidly have those years so that you catch up, unless you find someone who will want to take on someone who's a virgin and be okay with that as a wife. He did not indicate in any way to you that he was interested in taking you on as a wife.
Correct.
What you're telling me is you are not going to be able to go forward with him in any full sexual relationship. And that's okay. But that's not for him.
Whatever, two things I'd like to respond with. I understood why he would never want to. He made it clear he may never want to get married again because he was previously married.
Right.
right? And and from what he's told me, it was a negative experience. And then also one of his partners post divorce, he was with her for 4 years. She died of cancer last year, and so he told me he was still grieving, and he wasn't. This was right after I gave him that first love letter that you showed just now. That was back in April. He actually took me out to dinner a couple of days after that letter that I gave to him, and he said that he was still grieving from that that 4-year relationship, and that he wasn't ready to commit to me or anybody yet.
Okay.
That's what he said. Yet.
Okay, and I
And then
understand
so
that,
that,
but
so then that, and then also,
Sonali, I don't know if anyone has talked to you like this, and it is what I do, and I really feel it's my duty, because you will need to completely let this go for now. You just said yourself the yet. I'm telling you from a completely objective viewpoint about this man. At this age, it would feel wrong, and he would be a bit of a creep to continue with you. Now, that may be mind-blowing to you. I've talked to 40-year-old grandmothers, okay? Do you think a 40-year-old grandmother has had such a interesting, diverse, experienced life of relationships, sex, love, a lot of it? Yeah, she has, correct? That woman, who would only be 4 years older than you,
right.
could very well connect with him, and he would not feel creepy or weird about being with her. It would align in a much better way. This is out of alignment. You have the essence, and you have the sexual developmental level of someone 17 to someone much older like him that could be your grandfather. It's going to feel very wrong to him, and it should.
What about all those celebrity couples who have large age differences? Like, let's take Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas.
Okay.
She's 10 years older than him. Dick Van Dyke, his current
Okay, you can stop here. You can stop here.
Okay.
The woman being older, I'm much older than my husband, more than 10 years. Women are not energetically the predators in a relationship. Sexually, it's very, very different. Think of it this way in a very vernacular. The man does sex to us in a very different way than we have sex with them. I believe your Mr. Lapp is a good man. He's also grieving. But to take this on, and this letter of yours told him everything he needs to know. You cannot handle a relationship at the level that he is going to need it. Now, that may not make any sense to you, but I want to give you my truth to be able to help you understand that you are going to have to start to date at a level where you are and work up to another level, like you would at 17, where you don't just lay out all that you're laying out. I'm a 36-year-old virgin, because quite frankly, they're not going to tell you, but a man is going to be absolutely scared of that, not want to deal with it, because here's what they know. From how many 36-year-olds have dated a 22-year-old? They have. And you know what they tell me? Too immature. I can't. Drama-filled, immature. You have not handled the things you emotionally that you are going to need to have handled once you have sex with someone that a more mature woman who's had it does. He feels that from you. He knows it. He knows from your letter. And you are doing something that I, in the work with my women, you're showing your hand. He didn't choose you as his one. And you're saying in a letter, I'm all yours. You're my one and only. You're it for me.
Because I'm Indian. That's the Indian in me talking.
I understand that. Then you have to be in
Right.
a milieu where they will get that, understand it, and appreciate it better. You said something very significant that I want you to think about.
Mhm.
You said you're a little scared of your father.
Right.
What's that about?
He was the patriarch in my family growing up. He's 9 years older than my mother. And Indian culture as a whole is very patriarchal and male dominated. So that's that. And just growing up, he called the shots. He has anger issues. He yells a lot. He yelled a lot. He still yells a lot. And I in my late 20s, I was actually in therapy to deal with PTSD and that traumatic upbringing. And I've had thanks to an actual therapist which wasn't done on camera or on
Right.
a podcast.
Right.
I've learned to detach from and not try to not let all that affect me. But
Good.
at its core, like I quite frankly, Paula, I don't speak to my father unless I absolutely
see.
have to.
Okay. But
and
here's the
so-
problem. You've been programmed to be afraid of the control, be afraid of the male figure, male essence.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is all involved in your sexuality.
You're right. I'm afraid. I've been on 3 Bumble dates. They were all two of them were with Indian guys. One was with the Persian guy.
Mhm.
But those are all negative experiences. And I'm at a point now where I don't want to go out on another Bumble date because it's with a stranger. Like, why would I meet a stranger for a drink? It is scary. It really is.
Okay. Well, you don't have to do it that way. But like I know in New York City, there's Indian speed dating. There's
Sure, that's right.
right where you go and you meet and it's in a public place with all other singles meeting and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be. And those who know me, I don't recommend Bumble, but it's
Right.
not the dating site that's the issue. I did see something you presented on your website
Mhm.
where immediately you told the guy you're a virgin. You're automatically doing something and putting up a wall. And I believe even Dr. Phil said the same thing to you, which is,
Right.
well, don't say it right off the bat because immediately that man, whoo.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, but then isn't it
no.
like I just want to be upfront about what I am. Just I
Okay. You're in very serious debt, hundreds of thousands of debt. Do you lead with that?
no.
You have
I get this point.
right. You get the point. I have a very bad sickness. Do I lead with that?
No.
Dating is getting to know someone and trust being established, liking being established, other things besides sex being established and feeling connected. And for the first time, you did that with Mr. Lapp and you allowed him to pursue you naturally.
Yeah.
And it just naturally occurred.
Exactly.
Great. That means that's a good sign. You can do it. But you've got to do it and add in, not just like a 17-year-old wouldn't. That may not come up for 4, 5, 6 dates where the guy's trying to, and she just says, no, I'm not ready. I'm just not ready. I like you. I'd like to continue dating you. Now, he may or may not ask, are you a virgin? With you at your age, probably won't ask.
Unless he Googles me.
Well, yes, and that's another question.
Right.
You have to make up your mind. What is it that you want more? Because if you want to couch yourself as something very different and and be this is going to be your banner, that's what you are. Well, yeah, you're going to have a really hard time because you don't want to be like a sideshow. That's a very personal thing. And you don't owe that to tell anybody if you don't want to, and certainly not a man. But you're thinking, and here's what happens, is that Any man who's worth his salt is going to scale high mountains, and it should not ever be a deal breaker at all. He should see me, see my value, know my worth immediately off the bat, and know that virginity is a high value thing, and say, hey, I'm going to put the time in and see how this goes. And he can if you don't lead with it.
Well, that's what happened with Mr. Lapp. I didn't bring any of that up in our first date. He didn't know anything about it. He never Googled me or anything. He just knew me as a girl from the
Exactly.
gym.
Exactly.
No, and then with
Exactly.
him, you know, as it was going, I never thought he would end it, right? We went strong for a couple months, and like I was having the time of my life, and I felt safe with him.
Yes, but he
He was
wasn't
putting in the
getting his
time.
needs met.
I know, I get it. I used to wonder because we only we saw each other often at the gym, and then we only had dates, if you will, once, maybe twice a week. And but then and I used to wonder this, and I still wonder this, like what was he doing the other nights? Was he getting full on sex from other women? I
No,
just
not
like,
necessarily. No,
no,
no.
and I wanted to go all the way with him. I felt it. We both felt it, but I wasn't on any birth control, and he didn't have a vasectomy. And
But what I'm hearing is you said it right in the introduction. I don't know if anybody caught it, but you said, and wording means everything. We didn't commit intercourse. Commit intercourse. That is what your mind thinks about intercourse, committing it like it's a crime.
I see.
It's very telling.
I can't, like, even with, I feel like I'm gonna cry and mess up my makeup.
It's okay.
I just, I can't, and this is the Indian side of me talking, like, I can't imagine doing what I did with him with any other guy. And he's already like ended it with me, right? Like just,
Yes.
and like I've cried incessant tears, as you mentioned, my body still aches for him. And that was only second and third base.
Okay.
Like, and just, I can't imagine going all the way with any
Okay,
man
because
and then having him end
Sonali,
it with me.
you have not done the normative developmental things that women do to get themselves ready. And when you date, you're going to have to do that. Doesn't matter how old you are. It's like you've been in a coma from 10 to 36. Well, you missed all that. So at 36, now you got to get out and date. And
Right.
date like you're 17. That's a very different way of it. I'm not suggesting dating young men, but like that. Meaning you let them take you out. You have fun. You get to know them very slowly, very systematic, because underneath you feel you're going to be controlled. They're going to take over. You fear them on a very deep level.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
And I've been in therapy for all that, and I'm at a point where, like, it is what it is. The damage is done. It's my upbringing. Can't choose the past. But that's Indian men for you.
But you can go from here. You can go from
Right.
here and it not be. But here's my question to you, and it's the biggest takeaway question for you today that you
Sure.
really have to think about, is that if you are considering intercourse to be, like a crime, you commit it, sex is not love. Sex is not love.
It is for me. It is for me. Oh, with all due respect, just that's, and again, that's the Indian side of me.
I understand, but it is when you're 16 too. It's not like you don't have love in sex. When you're in love with somebody, that love carries over into sex. But make no mistake about it, it is two separate things. Now, of course, you're going to feel like you feel about it. That's normative for someone 16 and 17. They haven't had the experience to know, oh, these really are two different things. You can blend them, but you can't make them one thing. And that's what's happening for you. And it will hurt you with men, because any experienced man is going to know that. Okay. It's never that with men from the outset to begin with. If you lined up 10 women in a room today, a man could go down, if she had any kind of semblance of body and age type that he wants, he could go down and have sex with every single one of them.
Right, and not feel anything.
Not
Right.
feel thing.
I've heard of that. Yes.
Yes. It enhances an experience, but for the man, it enhances it because he's doing something to the woman that gives her pleasure. You have to start from where you are. The reason you immediately come out with that you're a virgin is from your fear, which we always get what we fear, and that is keeping men at bay, keeping them away. That's what's happening for you. And that's very sad because there will be many men who will want to. But if you feel, given from what you're telling me about your father, if you feel their real interest and patience with you and what have you, other than like Mr. Lapp, you may not want them.
Right. Let me ask you something else, Paula.
Sure.
This was pre-kiss with Mr. Lapp. He made clear that he wanted an open relationship. He didn't want to commit, and I understood that because I knew he was previously married and all that. But then as time went on, I found out that he didn't approve if I was the kind to lead a promiscuous lifestyle. So, and I'll go into specifics.
Yeah.
Like I told you earlier, like, you know, like if we saw each other 3 or 4 times a week at the gym, but then we dated outside the gym once or twice a week,
Mhm.
right? And then I've already said this to you, like, you know, I used to wonder, like, he got what he got from me once or twice a week, but was he getting full on sex from other women the other nights of the week?
Well, now that you're telling me that, maybe.
Right.
But the
Right,
point
exactly,
is,
but
like,
that-
why
yeah, but
would you?
but what if I was the kind to do that with other men, which I
because-
wasn't, and I still am not, right?
But
Yes.
Sonali, you're so misled. It is never equal for men and women. That's the American side of you that has been sold a bill of goods. It is not that for men. And
Mm.
why would that even enter into you when you aren't even at a place to have sex in your life? Why would you even be considering? And the minute he said, I want an open relationship, it's like, oh, okay, well, I understand, you know, all the best to you. We can, you know, just be friends at the gym. That's it. But because you feel I'm not giving him what is normative to give a man, maybe I should let him do that. And that's lowering your value, does nothing for you, and will allow him to just discard you.
I do feel used and discarded. I really do.
Yes.
He's 65 and he strung me along for 6.5 months.
Okay, here's what you can
Yes.
do for that. You take 100% responsibility for being in that relationship to begin with. You got into a relationship with a 65-year-old man who says, I want it to be an open relationship.
My hope was that he would change after the kiss.
Okay, there is your, okay, ding, ding, ding for anybody
Right.
listening. There's your naivete.
Right, I agree.
Naivete. Nope, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Mm.
And you're holding on to this. And the secondary gain from holding on to it is that you don't have to move on.
Mm.
That's the secondary gain because it's extremely painful for you to deal with what is. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. You have got to deal with this to have what is normative for any vital woman like you. You are still young. I started my life over at 38, like over. And then I did it again with career at 50. Everyone can. You're never younger than you are today. And you are still young. You're young. You can have children if you want. You don't have to. But you want to be partnered. And that's a beautiful, wonderful, normative thing. You can have that. You know, it's funny. Today, I put on my Instagram, it's a post with a kitty, a black cat. And the saying is, this is scaring him away. And what I mean by that is that online is so difficult. We've got to understand that our profile is the ad for ourselves. Well, do ads lead with something that might be off-putting to a potential customer? No.
No, they don't.
So all I was saying in the ad is don't put your cat in a profile picture or mention your cat in the profile. And here's why. All studies show Men believe that women with cats are a problem. Now, where do they get that? Who cares? Because it's not true. But they immediately think, and especially in the older cohorts, crazy cat lady.
Wow.
Yes. So you can have a cat because when he falls in love with you, he'll also love your cat. Cats are wonderful. He'll love your cat once he falls in love with you. But do not lead with your Achilles heel. Do not lead with, I have a gambling addiction, right? I'm addicted to, oxycodone. I'm $200,000 in debt. I haven't had a job in a year. My family is, a hot mess. I'm a virgin.
Why is virginity such a bad thing? Everybody's a virgin until some point in their lives.
Okay. You answer me in the context of what I was telling you. Why? Because you're very smart and you have the American side to you. Why would you not lead with that? Why would you not say that? I've given you the answer before. Why?
Maybe my ambition intimidates some men. I don't know. That's why I'm here talking to you. From what I've seen from movies and also society, and I'm just saying what I've seen and heard, like there's a derogatory term for women who do lead promiscuous lifestyles. And I'm not going to go into
that is what's called black and white thinking. If you're not a virgin, you're promiscuous. Black and white thinking hurts women more than anything else. There is nothing wrong with you being a virgin, but in the wrong context and at the wrong time being told, yes. Just like guy gets to know you, you have a gambling addiction and you're dealing with it. But if you put on the profile, gambling addict, you think you're going to meet him? You're saying nothing is wrong with being a virgin. No. Well, nothing is wrong really with anything that someone's dealing with. It's all in the context. We don't lead with it on, just like with a cat. Anything wrong with having a cat? No. A lot of things right with having a cat. Don't lead with it because of how men perceive it. You see? I say even you have a dog. Don't put the dog in your profile. You know why? And it's so interesting when you see the studies done about it. Everything's going to be about the dog and not me. Just horse. Guess what horse connotes? Horse in your, and you might be equestrian. Just don't lead with it because already I can't afford you. Okay.
Interesting.
Yes. So all I'm saying to women is don't do this. And there's all this backlash, of course, like how awful to say that. If he doesn't like my cat, who cares about him? Nobody that doesn't like my cat, I'll even give any amount of time. No, it's the same thing for you. Do not lead with something that isn't just general, vague, and it's also an extremely personal thing. Would any other woman put, I've had X amount of experiences? Well, that's on the other end of the scale. Right. Either end of the scale is going to hurt you. We want in the middle. And you are to date without belying that until it's appropriate. You need to be vague. And this is for anyone with anything about something in their life that is not this man. In other words, a lot of people have a lot of family baggage, right? The family's a hot mess or whatever it is, right? Got the mentally ill brother and I've got the mother who is agoraphobic and I this and I that and blah, blah, blah. And my family's feuding for years and this, a lot of stuff. Would you lead with that?
No.
Of course not. Now, of course, that's seen as negative. And yes, there is nothing wrong with virginity. And once he falls in love with you, he's not going to care. Once he falls in love with you, just like with the cat, he's going to fall in love with the cat too. But you have to let him fall. he's kissing you, it's getting hot and heavy, and you feel it going towards sex, and you say, I'm not really comfortable. I'm not really ready yet. Well, you're not a virgin, are you? Well, I've not had a lot of experience in sex, and I just like to take things really, really slow. And I really like you, and I really would like the chance to get to know you and see how it goes. Now, I didn't answer the question. I was vague.
Mm.
If he pushes it and pushes it, you may say, well, I've done a lot. I've not done vaginal intercourse. That's true. Well, you've done a lot. Well, I'm not going to get into anything that I've done. I'm just telling you that I'd like to get to know you and take it slow. And I'm just not ready to do that yet. I would love to see you again.
Mm.
That's an example of a conversation you could have, rather than the minute he goes in for a kiss, you are throwing up that wall because it's a secondary gain for you.
Right.
And that's really what's at play here, because this has become your persona. Because what are you going to do when you're no longer that? Have you thought about that?
Sonali 2.0. I'll cross
I
that
love
bridge
it.
when we get
Good, good, good. I love it. Well, there you go. If this is a personal thing you have with your higher power, with your God, with whatever you just as a moral thing feel, you have every right to that. And you will find someone that will respect and honor that. Here's an issue. If you say, if I have sex with you, that means you're the only man I'm ever going to have sex with, you have a problem.
Oy.
Because if he hasn't decided to marry you first without sex, and that happens a lot,
Yeah, I know.
a lot, you can have that. But if you throw down that gauntlet, so to speak, he's going to have a very hard time with that. Now, if you say, I work with many women, and we do this, that no sex before engagement, and they're of all religions, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, no sex before engagement. Men are perfectly fine with that. Because I'm of the belief that we end marriages in divorce all the time. Why don't we do it the other way around? Get engaged, see if that person is truly right during an engagement. And then if it's not, don't get married. But have the man fully committed by him making the decision. Because as you know from my book, that the man needs to make the formal public commitment through decision. And that's how he bonds. And then he'll live up to that. We bond through time and sex. That's why it's so important that you guide it through the time so that he can fall for you and make the decision. You can have what you want. But you have got to start dating from a much different start level. And I dare say someone 65 who wants an open relationship is not at your level.
I have another question. When he finally broke it off with me, I started crying in front of him. It just came out of nowhere.
Sure.
Before, like, I never let him see me cry or anything. But then I was thinking about this afterwards. He has a daughter. His daughter's 23. Paula, if I was the mean kind, which I'm not, I don't know how to be mean or malicious or manipulative or any of that. But if I was the mean kind, I would have said to his face, like, imagine some guy treating your daughter the way you treated me. Like, what if his daughter was heartbroken by some guy? Because I believe in karma. What goes around comes around.
I understand.
I didn't say that to him. But like,
he's
I
not
think
going to
about
come
that.
back on his daughter. And see, you wanted him to treat you like a daughter.
I wanted him to respect. He treated me like a queen. He did. The 6.5, 7 months, he respected me. We didn't kiss until 3 weeks after our first date. At that point, he knew everything about me.
Sonali, I told you what he felt wrong and icky, and he should. He felt the 16-year-old developmental stuff in you, and it felt awful. I'm sorry, but it just would. It just would. And he did right by you by letting you go. Love does not conquer all at all. That is something you will know later. It is a feeling. It conquers nothing. Meaning, it's what we do with it, the actions we take from it, and the commitment we make from it, the responsibility we take on from that feeling. But the feeling alone does nothing, and it does not a relationship make. You can love someone to death, but you cannot be in a relationship with them. And I bet he does. Of course he does. You're lovable, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're sweet, all of it. But it doesn't mean he can have a relationship with you. 40-year-old grandmother who's been through a shitload in her life, all manner of crap, and wants to have an open relationship with him. Sounds like a good match. You see?
The term open relationship sickens me. Just who?
Well, but then why were you even? You see, you have to make it make
this was back in
sense.
March. I get it now, but this was back in
Make it
March
make
because
sense.
I was enjoying his company. We laughed and talked a lot.
He was doing that while with you. Start to affirm and to go into, what do you want? What do you want? Where do you want to be a year from now? Do you want to be the 37-year-old virgin? Or do you want to be dating this year like a 17-year-old to get to a possible start with somebody leading to engagement and marriage? Because you can have that. You can absolutely have that. But you're going to fundamentally turn things around. And if you're seeing sex as committing an act, if you're seeing sex as something that is absolutely just about love, and the man is going to be, once he does it, he's tied to you forever, without him getting to those feelings of wanting to be with you forever first, you got a problem.
Yeah.
You got a problem. You need to be dating in a way that will free you, and you've got to make some hard choices, and there may be very hard choices between your cultures. And I would recommend that you get a good therapist who is also between your cultures. An Indian American good therapist, I think, would be very helpful.
Right.
To help you sort out these very deep and programmed ideologies in you, because you've been programmed to believe about sex in a certain way.
It's a big deal. It really is.
Yes. And that has been a good thing and a not so good thing. It's been something that has given you a lot of value, but it's hurt you personally tremendously. Because there's no reason a woman of your beauty, sweetness, fun, humor, intelligence should not have what she wants. You are getting in your own way. Your subconscious and the programming in your subconscious of what it means for you to be fully sexual with someone. And that is what is at play here. The karma may come back to you. You are bad. You are wrong. You may be doomed for life. All manner of things. I don't know, because I don't know what the cultural norms are in that. But many, many very strict religious peoples have this. And each person has to come to their own spiritual, moral decisions about it. And I see you caught between, for example, and please tell me about the Playboy thing that you're doing.
I was doing. That's
Okay.
a part of my past.
Okay, what is that?
I've done some bikini, boudoir, and lingerie modeling for them. And even before that, I did modeling back in New York, and I met them through my job, actually. I met the CEO's assistant through my job, and um, I want to show the world. I wanted to show the world that a virgin can be sexy. Like it's not either or, like
But
just
it isn't either or, but you're making it either or.
I'm showing, but because of the modeling stuff I have done both with and without Playboy, like I know how to be sexy just because I haven't had sex. Because when I first came public with it on Dr. Phil, that was the first time, by the way, this was in 2020, 3 years ago during lockdown. That was the first time I went public with my most intimate truth. And it was a very thrilling experience, but also very nerve-wracking because I divided the internet. I had a lot of supporters, but a lot of, a lot of haters, if you will. And so, but one thing I got from all the feedback on YouTube was like, that's how can she still be a virgin? She's so beautiful. And a lot of people didn't believe me. That's another thing. That's a huge thing. Like people thought I was lying. Like at 33 I was 33 then. And I'm like, why would I lie? Because one lie leads to another lie. And I don't want to be a fraud. I'm not a fraud. So that was also very hurtful, but I've gotten used to it. That was 3 years ago. It's been a journey. But and I still get hate mail online, social media that you're a liar, we know it's a charade.
Well, when you give mixed messages, like I'm a virgin, but I'm on the Playboy thing, and I understand what you're saying, but to the average person and the average man, it's an incredible mixed message.
Right.
You don't want to give mixed messages. You don't want to give any messages about. And anyone who's dealing with what Sonali's dealing with, meaning you're an older virgin, then don't be putting it out there. First of all, it's nobody's business. Nobody's business. Nobody's business how many people you've been with or without. Or what bases I haven't heard that term in many years, but it's nobody's business, okay? And it doesn't have to be. And you can find there are 8 billion people in the world. Do you think there's a match for you out there?
I'll believe it when I see it, when it happens. I thought Mr. Lapp was the one.
Okay. Here's what I can tell you. First of all, you have to start looking for something more appropriate. And someone who doesn't in any way share your values. And what I mean by that, do you really think a man who wants an open relationship and maybe polyamorous finds value in a virgin?
He did for 6.5 months. He found some value.
Yeah. He's a consumer getting all the licks and pets from a pretty puppy.
And I got that from your book. I did.
Yeah. So you need a definite course in getting up to speed very quickly about men and the way sex is viewed. If you want to be American in this way, it's not, you don't commit intercourse. It's not an ugly, bad thing. It's not dooming you to hell. It's something that two people who do not want to control each other do. But when you say, I'm a virgin to someone who's not fallen in love with you, and I will only do that with you if you're going to be the one forever with me, that's control. And no man wants that. You take 100% responsibility. Do I want to be with this man? Trust my judgment enough, trust my skills enough that I can take this relationship step by step to the result I want. That's the work I do with women. In other words, the woman has to know she can trust herself to do what is necessary to guide a man to the right results, because that's our duty. It just doesn't happen with men like we see in Bollywood, like we see in Hollywood, like we see in any movie, reading a romance novel. That's selling us a bill of goods. It doesn't work. here's the problem. Has it ever worked for anyone we might know? Yes.
I'll say this, whatever in my generation, I've seen some Indians get divorced.
Mhm.
It's only when they were married to another Indian. So
Okay.
that's what I can say. This realization dawned on me a couple of weeks ago, actually. But when you look at, like, let's say Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas, they'll be married 5 years this December. And so that's obviously an interracial marriage. And she has said in interviews, like, what she found, some of the great things about Nick Jonas, that he is her biggest champion. He's so, he's always supportive of her ambitions, and he's
Okay.
not
I would
intimidated or
imagine,
insecure by
I
it.
don't know if she was a virgin when they met. I
Right.
don't believe it.
I have her memoir, I have her book. She doesn't mention anything of it.
Right. Because it's nobody's business. Nobody's business.
I see what you mean. The reason I went public with it was because I saw the Dr. Phil posting on social media during lockdown. He was looking to help millennials with their love life.
Uh-huh.
And then also, and in my introduction, you mentioned I'm a comedian, I'm a dancer, I'm in the entertainment business, and it's
You
cutthroat
have to
competitive
decide,
business.
Sonali.
Right. No, and so I went public with it because I realized this was what makes me unique.
It
And
is.
Priyanka Chopra won Miss World at 18. I didn't win Miss World or anything at 18.
Okay,
so
but
she
you're
has
not
she has
her.
different-
Okay.
Right, absolutely.
You're not her. And she's in a whole echelon of people that, and she married younger.
Mhm.
And many times in Hollywood, these things are set up. All the power to them, right? She doesn't say anything in her memoir about her sex life, or
Right.
certainly not whether she was a virgin or not. Good for
Mhm.
her. Nobody's business. You can decide today, what's the most important thing to me? If I make it as a comedian, I have my 15 minutes of fame, or maybe it's longer, maybe it's 15 years of fame, what have you. And I never have sex, and I'm a virgin all my life, because I'll be the 37-year-old virgin, the 39-year-old virgin, the 42-year-old virgin, the 45-year-old virgin. Okay. What's more important to me, that and having that, or taking all that crap down and reinventing myself? And I'm now out there in the world free, and I don't have to tell anybody anything.
Mm.
It's a choice. There's
Right.
no right or wrong choice. No right or wrong choice. What's going to make you happy? That's the choice. What do you
Right.
want? What will make you happy? And tell you one thing, if you pick someone that looks like she has it all, Priyanka,
Right. Mhm. Yes. Mhm.
and try to follow that, she's not you. That worked for her. She's not you. You are unique and wonderful in your own way. You make your own path, and you can do that. I'm just telling you that you have to start dating as if you're just starting to date, because you are.
Mhm.
Because you
Right.
are like a 17-year-old who's had a few experiences. Because most 17-year-olds have already had
Right. Mhm.
sex. They've
Oh
already had
boy.
all that you had, plus others.
Yeah, I know.
So it's very important that you look at it under that lens and start like that, and be vague. And you do not have to tell anybody. If they Google you, they do. Okay. You have to decide if you're going to keep this stuff
Yeah.
out there, and this is how you're going to market yourself. There will be a market for it. And I'm sure
Right.
there would be many men in India who would welcome having an American wife.
Oh yes, that's a whole other conversation.
It is. It is. It is. But I'm hoping that it's somewhat helpful for you today. Is there any last question you want to ask me?
No, this is very insightful. You gave me some tough love, Paula. Thank
I
you.
did. I did. And you can take it because you've had a lot of hard stuff to deal with.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hope you have very good friends around you. Do
Right.
you?
I do, to an extent.
Okay. And I would hope that you have good spiritual advisors, but I would also highly recommend getting a therapist who has your background. I think there's nothing more helpful than someone who can truly understand your experience like that, and challenge you to dissect it in a way that you have not. And if anything, I would hope that something releases you from the ties that have held you down. And I think that maybe some more therapy will help you discover that. But I believe it has to do with your early childhood, the control of your father, the anger, and the fear that if you step away from doing what is expected, because make no mistake, it's one thing not to be married.
Right.
It would be a whole other thing if they were to find out that you were having sex outside of marriage.
Right. Absolutely. Even this interview, and I've said it on a few other talk shows. I've reached experienced second and third base with someone. If my parents ever hear that, they would be disappointed. Absolutely. My father would, he would say these horrible things to me, but also, Paul, I gotta say, I'm at a point in life where I don't care. This is my truth.
Good.
This is my truth. And they're in India, they're retired.
Good.
But at the same time,
Good.
so like it's a journey.
Yes, it is.
I'm the first one to say I'm a work in progress.
You only have one life. You deserve to live it free of those ties that have bound you. And you will always respect them as your parents. You will always be there for them. But at the end of the day, they made the choice to come to the States and have a child here in the States. Well, inherent in that is that that child is going to be from a dual culture,
Right.
not a uniculture.
Mhm.
And so you didn't choose that. You were brought into that.
Mhm.
And you deserve to make of that and blend that in whatever way suits you. My only recommendation to finish up today is to tell you, you must start by dating like you're 17. You can't come at them with what is leading with the cat in your profile. That's all I'm saying. Don't lead with that.
I understand.
He's going to love the cat once he loves you. Same thing. Going to love that you're a virgin once he loves you. It's become your persona, so to speak, right?
Absolutely.
And then I got to know you a little bit about something else, but it becomes about that. And I don't think any one of us wants to be just what we are sexually in any conversation. So when we meet a guy, it's not about that. We want to get to know what he's like, his character, what he likes to do, what's important to him, where he wants to go in life, having, marriage, or what are his, complete aspirations towards even retirement or something like that. Like, where does he see his life ending up? If he says it's in, Alaska, I'm like, okay, see ya, right? No disrespect to Alaskans, but you know what I'm saying? So, in other words, date to get to know someone, not for them to get to know that you're a virgin.
Right.
At 17, we don't go around telling them. We just date, meet. That's it.
Right.
That's what you gotta do.
I'm a people person. I'm an extrovert. I love going out, socializing. And
Good.
I do believe friendship is the foundation of any relationship.
Right.
But at the same token, I don't like the term friends with benefits. That's the whole Indian American stuff.
Well, why would it be friends with benefits?
Because I've heard of that saying. There are
Well, yeah,
movies
but it
about
has nothing
that
to do with dating, getting to know somebody, and slowly moving towards the physical that comes out of that. And you're not committing a crime when you do. But if you continue to have that kind of feeling, then date people, maybe go down a religious path here. That may be. There's so many religions that would be highly, highly valued. But if you
Right.
don't have that as the reason why, and I'm not hearing that that's the reason why, I'm hearing it's out of fear, it's control.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also people in like you're talking about religious, I'm a non-practicing Hindu.
Mhm.
But with that said, like South Asian men, in my experience, and I'm 36, I've seen some of life, right? And I mentioned this before, they are intimidated by my professional goals.
I want to ask you something. Indian women are they are doctors,
I don't,
Lawyers, why would they be into? I don't quite understand that. I
I
think
don't know.
again, that's a very limiting belief. That is not true.
I don't know either, but when Priyanka Chopra said what she has said about Nick Jonas being her husband, her biggest champion, I resonated with that because in my experience, what I found is that even the first three Indian guys who kissed me, like they were intimidated by my ambition, and
Okay,
so
I think you interpret
that's
it as that. You interpret it as that because you're keeping them at bay. That's my assumption of it. You're idolizing a path that someone else took, looking at a star at 17 and, oh, I want to be that.
Mm.
You've really got to get out of that. And again, I want to leave you with, I hope you will look for someone to really work on this with you at a very deep level about what has happened, how you've been programmed, and someone from your culture who is also schooled in American psychological modalities that can help, and American culture as well, I think would be extremely helpful to you.
right. I see.
Yeah. It was wonderful to talk to you today. I think this was very insightful in a lot of ways. I want to ask you, why is it that you would like us to put this up and out on, it's going to go on YouTube first, on Diwali? What is the significance?
So Diwali is the Indian New Year. This year it falls on November 12th, 2023. It represents good over evil.
Ah.
And so growing up, I watched these Bollywood movies. I learned Indian classical dance. My parents practiced, we had a mini temple in our home, Hindu temple. We celebrated all these Indian holidays. And, even for me on a really deeply personal level, I'm all about love, love and kindness.
Nice.
And so being an Indian American, Diwali is a very significant time of year for me, even now, because it's a new year, it's a new start.
Okay.
So yeah, so those whatever shows I've been on and that I've been blessed to have been given the opportunity to be on those shows, I'm the only Indian American leading lady. I'm very grateful for those opportunities, and so I want to leverage whatever platform and following I have, and I want to leverage put all that together, and just have my podcast be with you, my conversation with you released on Diwali so that others can learn from my journey.
Well, that's wonderful.
Really, because I'm at a point where I've suffered enough, and I've had heartbreak after heartbreak, and I never had anybody to look up to and seek advice from. And we talk about mental health being such an important thing in this country, but health insurance doesn't quite cover it, and it's an expensive pursuit. It really is, and a lot of people don't pursue mental health because of the financial obstacles of it. But if there's even one person out there, maybe another Indian girl, who can benefit from my life experiences, I'm more than happy to share that on a public platform.
Well, I'm glad, because I think there are, and I know from the Indian women that I have had as clients, they have struggled with this issue, and we have found the way for them to bring in someone to move towards engagement. And that is when they felt comfortable, because they got the commitment and it worked. And I think that what I'm telling you, if you start to date with a clean slate, just clear it for yourself and date as you would when you were 17, meaning I don't tell anybody anything. If he finds out after you've had many, many dates and he likes you, he's not much gonna care. I'm married, and what do I do for a living? I talk about relationships all the time, dating a relationship coach, right? So many of my clients oh, my boyfriend could never find out. My husband could never find out. The guy I'm seeing could, they don't care. They don't care. It's yeah, I don't know what that is, but it makes you happy. You're happy. Great. Because again, that's what the man wants to feel. You're happy. You're happy in the relationship. You're happy with yourself. You're happy with him. And do not put something as vital to who you are on to somebody else, that it's going to be him that takes your virginity. It's going to hurt you.
So then how do I reconstruct that mentally then? Because that's what
you have work to do. You have work to do. You've got to do a lot of reprogramming of your subconscious mind. The sex is only to be done with someone with whom you marry, that it is only something about making love, I think, that it is a control mechanism of a man, because here's where you got it. I don't know what your parents' relationship was, but I'm going to bet you grew up, and you won't remember this, but from 0 to 7, I am not going to be my mother. I am not going to live that life. I am not going to be controlled by a man like that. Does any of that ring true?
Affirmative. Yes, it does.
Okay. So you're living it out. The problem is the subconscious only takes the absolute fact of what you put in it with no nuance. And it did it really well. Your subconscious is so good, it's ensuring you're not living the life of your mother, but there's no nuance to it, which is, well, wait a minute. I don't want to live that life stuck in an arranged marriage and controlled and all of that. But wait a minute, there's this whole other thing that I didn't tell you I didn't want. Doesn't matter with your subconscious. You've got to go in there now in your subconscious and give it what you want and reprogram it. And the best way to do that, everybody who's watched me knows, and you go here, I give all manner of people to watch to work on your subconscious, and that is through daily mental diet of affirmations of what you want and imaginal acts and creating them in your mind in the appropriate way so you feel them real and you know they are going to happen. That's manifesting. And you do your sleep meditations, because our brainwave is only in theta in a very short window in our day, and that is before falling asleep. That's when we're theta brainwave state. And that state is what we are in from 0 birth to 7. We're in theta brainwave. That is where we hypnotize people in theta brainwave. So you want to get to that state, and that's where you want to be listening to all the I am statements that you want. I am free to be who I choose to be. I have no worry, lack, urgency, or need. All is coming my way. I trust myself and my divine knowing of my life's path. You must start to put in those reprogrammed messages. We're not aware that our subconscious is like the Wall Street old ticker tape running the entire time of our old programming. Women who are good don't have sex. Only whores have sex with men who aren't their husbands. I mean, all kinds of crap that is in there that you got to reprogram. A woman who doesn't want to have children is not a good woman. You're not living out your karma. You're not living out your destiny if you don't marry and have, right?
Yeah, true.
All manner of crap that you got to get in and reprogram, or you're going to continue to play out your programming just like a computer until reprogrammed spits out only what it's been programmed to spit out. Nobody, no human gets away from being programmed. Not a one of us. We got to work on it.
This is deep stuff, Paula.
And the women that I work with, we do these two things. We work with this, and we work with the mechanics of men. How we just behave with men and the little tweaks of how we need to communicate with them so that they feel safe, secure. They know they're making us happy. Really, we're making ourselves happy. This is the magic that is created, and how the women I work with get to the engagements and marriages they want and are fulfilled.
At this point, like, I just want to, like, I've said this publicly too. I'm not desperate to get married. I just want companionship. And a ring would be nice. So I guess I am looking for a husband. But
well, yes. And here's the deal. You see, women don't, I say this all the time, we don't need marriage. And what I mean by that is that because we bond through time and sex, if we're with someone, we're the companion of them, and we have sex with them, and we have a fulfilling life, we don't need it. Yes, right. Because as long as we know that, we're good to go. Because we don't need this other thing that men bond with. Men bond in only one way. And I got this through wonderful male therapist, Bob Grant. Men bond in only one way, and that is by making a formal public commitment to take on the responsibility to and for you. That's how men bond, because women view relationships as a natural outgrowth of love. Men don't. Men view committed relationships, make no mistake, as a responsibility. Very different. That's why they need marriage. It's the difference between you fostering a puppy and you adopting one. If you foster it, you love all the licks and pets it's going to give you, but when you're done with it or it poops on the floor too much, out it goes. When you've adopted it, you make every effort. You try your damnedest because you've said to the world, here's my puppy. I've adopted it. You feel pretty crappy if you can't make it work. And that's what men do. They're going to work and work and work to make it work. That's why we need them to take us on as the responsibility they see us as being, even though it may not be financial. That's not what I'm talking about. The committed relationship. So I would love to do a follow-up with you sometime because I think you are very deserving. I hope you take real heed with what I said today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get the recording, right?
You are. And it's going to be up on YouTube and it will be on Diwali. So I guess can I say happy Diwali to you? Is that?
Happy Diwali. That's the way to say it. Yes.
Good. Well, a great note to end on. Thank you for doing this today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we're going to hear more from you, I know, and really good things. And I know that if you put your mind to this, you can change things for yourself and you can have the happiness you desire and deserve. It's what I'm all about. I know you can do it.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Paula. This is
Absolutely.
great. Really, very insightful. Tough love.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this on-camera episode as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. So hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't, and I will work to bring you the best content ever. Go to the Make Him Wonder podcast playlist for more coaching conversations like this one, most anonymously, with women just like you who come to me to have a real unfiltered coaching conversation where I give all of my coaching for her to succeed in her romantic life. You can too. I know that. That's why I'm here. It is why I do what I do. And I will bring you so much more. Hit that red alert bell so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And I will see you next time.